All right, hi everyone. Thank you so much for making it out today. How are we feeling? Yeah. Well, first off, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time. Like Lou was saying on Super Bowl weekend, my name is Valley Elza. You can also call me Valley for short, and I'm the press secretary for the Butch Ware for Governor campaign. And before we get started, I just want to shout out all of the Bay Area Greens that made it out today, especially the San Francisco Greens. You guys have taught me so much about the local politics and the history, and I wouldn't be here without you. So thank you so much for coming and supporting. All right, so we're going to get started with our panel here with our esteemed and distinguished guests. And so I have a couple questions here. Hope you don't mind me referencing some notes. And we're gonna talk about, all this important stuff. So, what we're gonna start with, I have a question for the entire panel. I would love for everyone, if possible, to keep their answer to maybe 2 minutes each. So what we're gonna talk about first is, how do we combat despair, defeatism, and the narrative that I'm just one person in the face of this? Angelica, do you wanna get us started?
Are you kidding?
Testing, there we go, yes.
What?
Yes, so, no worries. So, in Buddhism, we talk about these things as like a drop of water, into an ocean, and understanding that really it may seem like we're just like this one person or one drop, but we are a part of a greater cosmos of things, and if we come together, we can have a better effect. So when I say, I guess to battle despair and things like that, whenever there's something missing in the world, I always feel like it might be, if you notice it, then it might be up to you to sort of respond to that moment. And instead of looking to there's nothing I can do, understanding there's always something, just like I talked about before, now no opportunity wasted. Everybody makes it seem like doing something is some super heroic thing to do. Sometimes it's cooking a meal for those who need it. Sometimes it is putting your body in front or doing certain things. So I think to avoid despair, my advice is always to know that there's something that can be done in this moment.
Thank you.
Do you want to go down the line, or how do we want to?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think there's 3 things that come to mind for me when it comes to combating despair in moments like this. The first, as a history nerd, as a history teacher, is study the history of people who have been doing this. As I've heard a few people say here, this is not new. The conditions that we're seeing might look different. They might have new technology, they might have new faces, but the brutality, the inhumanity, that's not new. We come from a lineage of people who have been colonized, who have been targeted by exploitation, by discrimination, by all kinds of oppression, and those people fought back.
Yeah, they did.
So studying that history of indigenous resistance, of the black liberation struggle, of struggles all over the world, I draw inspiration from that. Just quickly for the other 2, just because I know we're limited on time, building community with other people, talking to other people, recognizing that you are not alone. As we can see in this room here, there are plenty of other people who see things that we see, who feel what we feel, and it's our job to get out of our comfort zone, knock on someone's door, call somebody, send a text, and start those conversations. And number 3, I would say it is, I'm drawing a blank, I had it. It was on the tip of my tongue. I'll save it for now, but I'd say those two things are really critical, just studying the history and recognizing that you're not alone, but we need to take that step and actually go out, talk to the people who see what we see.
Yeah, well said. You know, on November 17th, I turned the telly on because I wanted to watch the Security Council that day, and I did. I watched the whole effing thing from start to finish. And at the end of that awful day, I was kind of on the floor. And I wasn't sure where my hope was coming from, particularly after China and Russia failed to use their veto to stop all that absolute crap about a board of peace that Trump had come up with. Thank you, madam. So, but that's kind of obvious, but how do you come back? What I like to do is I mean, one thing, I'm here, and how great it is to be in this room with all of you. And you know, how great it is that we're in the room with Butch and that we're seeing this as the first small step towards changing everything. Okay, so I'm still in contact with Julian Assange, And I think of all those cold days standing on 2nd Avenue making speeches to about 12 people in the rain, and when he was banged up in Belmarsh for 4 years and all those things and blah. And it sometimes felt like a lost cause. You know, you can stand in Parliament Square and make speeches till the cows come home, but it's always Boris the arsehole Johnson at the other end of the line, you know, who's taking no notice. But Julian is free today. So all those tiny steps that we all make, whether it's with BDS or whether it's trying to encourage Butch here in what's going on here in California, it doesn't matter. The main thing is when you get up in the morning, you remember you're a human being and you think, what can I do today? And then you do it. And that's the end of the story.
Okay. So before I say anything, Roger Waters just handed me a microphone. And when I was growing up on syrup sandwiches in DC, I definitely didn't think I would ever have a moment like this. And when I was going through my 14-year-old emo phase, where I played Pink Floyd's The Wall front to back and back to front, like every day for 8 months, I definitely didn't think this day was coming. And shout out to my mom. She reminded me that I translated some of Roger Waters' lyrics into Russian when I was in high school, because I took Russian to try to unlearn colonial propaganda. And so I'm just like a little dumbstruck. So having a fanboy moment. What was the question? No, I'm just kidding. I remember the question. And I'm gonna be brief. I really appreciate it. So when Angelica and I talk offline, it's often actually about spirituality. We're talking about Buddhism and Islam and doing the inner work. So I would bring something from the West African Sufi teachings. A great teacher, Sheikh Uthman Dan Fodio, he said that we all know the problem with excessive anger, right? And what it can lead you to. He said, but insufficient anger is also blameworthy. He said, insufficient anger is blameworthy because it causes you to sit silent when others' rights are violated. On every day that ends in a Y. So the one thing that I just would say in response is that over the years, I've adopted that teaching from Sufism, which is that we need to cultivate in our inner beings a distinction between rage, blind anger that often causes us to lose judgment, and outrage. Outrage propels us forward, rage blinds us, and disciplining our emotions that we feel in these deep ways so that we can stand up for our fellow human beings, that is crucial, because the anger or the despair can be debilitating. But when you channel it towards something that brings you towards action, outrage pushes us to action. And another one of those great teachers, Sheikh Ibrahim Yas, he said, the difference between hope and false hope is that the first of them is accompanied by action. When the despair is sinking into your heart, can I say this here? Nigga, get up, do something, take action. Don't just lay there, fight back.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to say thank you all so much for those answers. I appreciated what Angelica had to say about showing up even in small ways, what Fernando had to say about studying how the Indigenous resisted in history, and especially what Roger was saying about showing up even when, there's only like a couple other people. And that's something I respect so much about Green Party members, because they will be out there, even if it's just them, even if it's just a couple of us, because we understand that we can't just fight for the causes that are popular, we have to stand up for what's right. And so I appreciate Green Party members for being principled and committed like that. Thank you so much for your work. And so now my next question for the panel is, how do you suggest that we overcome the obstacles in the path of our collective liberation? Should we maybe go the other way?
Reverse order? Okay.
Yeah.
Collective liberation. I think that this is a beautiful transition. It's collective liberation or it's no liberation at all. And
Thank you.
the corporate duopoly has staged a phony culture war in order to keep us divided against one another, because they know that united we get free and divided we don't. It's that simple. And that's the reason why it doesn't matter who you pray with or who you lay with or how you present in the world. I have to show up and fight for your right to be you, and you have to show up and fight for my right to be me, period, full stop. Because without it, all of our rights will be taken from us. And so we have to understand that liberation for my tribe or my people or my community is impossible unless it is tethered to liberation for all our tribes and all our peoples and all our communities.
Yeah, the universities. I said to a wonderful young Palestinian woman who I'm making a song with at the moment, and in the song, one of the lyrics is, I said, I'm sorry I came so late to this, because I didn't get into this fight until 2006. And that's another story which I won't tell today because it goes on and on forever. But I did get into it, and I'm in it, and well, thank you. Yeah, so I joined BDS in 2006, and blah, it's a long story. Where am I going with this? I'll tell you where I'm going. I've always said that this fight would be fought mainly on the campuses of the universities in the United States. And I may be wrong about that, but I'm not entirely wrong about it. Witness what we saw at Columbia University last year, or the last 2 years. I witnessed what we saw in the occupation of the grounds of Columbia University and the response of the fascists in this country to break those occupations apart with brute force from fascist police. Now, we watched that, and at the time we were shocked and dismayed, and I still am. My shock and dismay never goes away. But also, I recognized that the mask is off. We know who they are. We're no longer surprised that they behave like that. But we are, I've also developed over the years the idea that my platform is the 10th of December 1948 and the Declaration of Universal Human Rights in Paris on that day, on that famous occasion. It's a small platform, but it's not. It's the biggest platform that I can think of, because everything devolves from that. Now, there was a congressman who was beaten almost to death in 1858 in the Senate in the United States. He was an abolitionist. His name was Charles Sumner. And what he said after he'd been beaten half to death on the Senate floor is, what our fight is for now is the freedom to express our opinions without the fascist police coming and locking us up. And he was right. Thank you. And he said that because there is no conversation or argument to be had about slavery. It is wrong. Equally, and this gives me hope, there is no conversation to be had about supremacist regimes or genocide. They are wrong. So as long as we keep standing up to them, like you all are in this room today, we will win the conversation and we will win the battle. And the reason that that is important is because the battle that we fight is an existential battle for the soul of the human race. And I know you all know that.
Tough to follow.
Man, no, it's just so much to echo and to build on. When Butch was talking about just the collective liberation aspect, I think that's going to be a key element in our struggle. And it has been, I'd say, over these last few years when we saw how many people in this country were willing to rise up and stand up to the genocide in Gaza, recognizing that we are connected. We are connected. And for so long, that connection has been hidden from us. They don't want us to understand that it is our tax dollars, our weapons, our politicians who are enabling that atrocity. But when we're able to draw those connections, then we recognize our responsibility in toppling that machine that is causing this level of suffering so that a few people at the top can reap all these benefits and build hotels on the Gaza Strip while families in the US continue to starve and struggle. So that's one part. Also, when Roger mentioned the UN Declaration on Human Rights, when I was teaching world history, it reminded me, there was a parent-teacher conference where one of the dads said, are you the one who was teaching my daughter about the rights? I was like, yeah, that was me. She's like, she won't stop nagging me at home now. You can't talk to me that way, I have rights, she says. So that is that's a second key piece, is the education. We need to educate each other, we need to educate the youth. My partner and I, we have workshops where we talk to parents and teachers about how do I engage in these conversations with my children in a way that honors their humanity, doesn't overwhelm them with the gravity of the situation that we're in, but helps them to see that they are connected to every human being on this planet. And when we see injustice, we have a responsibility to speak out. So that's the second part. And a third, I think, is just, I think what Butch was mentioning earlier, is we don't want to normalize what we see. We don't want to normalize it. There's two quotes that I appreciate. Got you. Brother Cornel West has a phrase where he says, we become well-adjusted to injustice and well-adapted to indifference. And we can't live in a society where I have to keep my mouth shut when I see that level of cruelty happening. MLK, he says that we need a society where we are maladapted to that injustice. And so we want to always remember that. If you are in a society that inflicts this level of cruelty, you are not crazy for fighting back. It's the society that's crazy. So just in any situation that we can. If you're going to a Super Bowl party tomorrow, make the most of it. Make some relatives uncomfortable. Okay? All right, that's it.
And lastly, I would just say, even though I'm a Buddhist, like, Jesus is my homie. And I'm going to tell you, yeah, especially people who are actually Christ-like, who actually follow what Christ was talking about. Yeah, hey, yeah, absolutely, What happened? Flip and take, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Jesus hung with the hoes. That was my brother. But one thing I know that Jesus said, like, there was like as a reflection to us, it was that I am the way, the truth, and the light. Ain't that how it go? Listen, I am the way, the truth, and the light. But it was saying that, when I was taught all of that, was saying that in a way that is reflecting to us. That we have that same power, that God-given sort of strength and ability to know that through your life, how we're going to do it is not by abdicating our responsibility to someone else or thinking things are going to change with someone else. I am going to be a part of this way. I am the truth, which means I uphold the truth. I'm willing to stand, and even if I have to stand alone, because I'm going to tell you one thing, when you stand alone, it makes it easier for a real one to see you when you're not mixed up in the crowd with everybody else. So, and the only way to drive out darkness is with light. And so I tell each one of you is to find your light, keep it kindling, keep it aflame, keep it going, because when you have your light lit, you unintentionally sometimes light the way for other people. So that is the ways to keep your light shining and don't let darkness consume you. Find your light.
All right, so I think what we're going to move on to is a Q&A with the audience here. So we have a couple people going to ask the panel some questions. So please introduce yourself and ask away. Oh, it's not queued up yet. Okay.
Who got a question? Right here in the front row.
I have a question for Mr. Waters in particular. It's somewhat unrelated, but I would love to ask. My name is Maximus Owens. I write music, I play bass. It's a similar situation. Pink Floyd is my favorite band. Big inspiration. I was wondering if you had any general advice for somebody who wants to do what you did, putting music and political activism into one, and just moving forward with that.
You know what's the weird thing is, your voice is coming out over there, and because I'm 82 years old and profoundly deaf, I've no fucking idea what you were asking me. Okay. Well, music and politics. Wow. I mean, I know no other way. Every single word I've written in all the songs I've written over my entire career have been political. I know a lot of people didn't notice, even some people in my own band. But hey, brother, thank you for giving me the opportunity to say that out loud in public. There's no way to tell anybody how to be a musician or how to write poetry or how to write a novel or how to paint a painting, or really, that is a path that you have to find for yourself, and I'm sure you will if that's your intention, and good luck to you, because it's not a bad life, I promise you.
All right, next question.
Wow, what a great day. We're so glad we came today. My name is Wendy, and I'm a member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. I want everybody here to know about Uhuru, U-H-U-R-U, but I also want to ask a question because we are white people that work under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party to organize white people's reparations. And shout out to Butch Ware and Jill Stein for supporting the Uhuru 3. And thank you. And I just want to ask about the question of reparations and land back and how we can insert it into the electoral campaigns. And you have inserted it, but I'd just love for you to talk about it more.
I'll try to keep this brief. First of all, regarding the Uhuru 3 and regarding Mumia Abu-Jamal, regarding all of the political prisoners that were targeted in various ways, free them all. Free them all. Free them all. And some of the most powerful lessons that we have in liberation, and I'm going to refer to this in my talk a little bit later, have come right out of corrections facilities here in the state of California. Free all of the political prisoners, because many of them have been our teachers. Now, this is the only campaign, period, where you will hear me say with my whole chest, land back and indigenous sovereignty, period, full stop. We do not believe the way that some so-called leftists believe that if the white people stole it fair and square, that we get to keep it. We believe that the indigenous people are the rightful stewards of these lands, and that no good will ever grow from these places until restorative justice and land back is given to the indigenous peoples of these lands, period. Neither shall any fruit grow until the debt is paid for the toil of my enslaved and oppressed ancestors. Reparations now. And to be brief, I'm just going to say this. When Jill tagged me into an electoral fight, that was the last thing that I was thinking about, but I understand now why. I got unfinished business with that flag. And we are starting a journey right now to make every single one of us that have been harmed by this settler colonial empire whole. And they are going to deliver on every last one of those false promises and broken treaties. And they are going to have to come through every last one of us, because we are going to be fighting for land back and reparations together.
Okay, I believe we have time for 2 more questions from the audience, or 1 more. Sorry.
First of all, I'm taking a break from Lyft driving just to come here today. And this question's mostly for Butch, but the other panel can chime in. I've been battling mental health for a few years now. It cost me my engagement. And when I think of Pink Floyd, I think of the late, great Syd Barrett and how mental health has come a long way since the 1970s, but 8 months ago I came to a Beatles tribute concert. The Lennon impersonator talked about the late, great Brian Wilson. We need more than just better health care for physical problems. We need to address mental health. And I would love to know from Butch and Roger, everyone else, how do you think would be the best, affordable and less stressful way of handling mental health?
Excellent. I'm going to give a very brief, simple answer to the question, and I would like for the rest of the panel to weigh in on, in whatever way they would like. Easy answer to this question. Universal single-payer health care in the state of California. that is comprehensive of mental health treatment and addiction treatment. And when I speak about this, listen, my father battled homelessness on and off the streets for 20 years of his life. And it wasn't because he was a bad person, it was because he needed help. And Ronald Reagan cut the safety net out from under a generation, and my father was in that generation. When I talk about bringing healing to the people of this state, and if we get universal health care in this state, that means the whole country's gonna get it. When I make that argument, it's because that I believe that every last one of us needs to be equipped with the resources to face up to the fights for our physical health and our mental health and our social health and our ecological health.
Wow. Yeah, well, of course, he's absolutely right. And obviously, universal health care is absolutely high on his list of priorities, like it should be high on the priority of anybody standing for political office anywhere in the world. Not possible. But in this country, in the United States of America, yeah, why don't we stop shoveling money into the pockets of Jeff Bezos and Mark fucking Zuckerberg and start giving it to people who need it? Not the homeless, the mentally ill. And yes, of course, there are a long way to go with mental health. And I'm glad you mentioned my old friend Sid Barrett, you know, who I miss deeply to this day. In fact, later on, I'm going to ask you all to sing a song that's partially about that with me. So we'll see when we get to that.
I was going to say, you know, I appreciate Butch's calls for universal health care, but I do worry about the insurance companies and the healthcare CEOs. How will they eat? How will they eat, Butch? Show me the plan.
Hashtag Luigi.
When I went to school, I studied for psychology. I got a BA in psychology. And as a teacher, something that I also worked in special needs classrooms with students. I've seen students coming in with different mental health issues, depression, substance abuse, as I mentioned. I want to stress that there is a biological and physiological condition that leads to several mental health problems. I also want to stress that it is often a symptom of a society. Yeah. It's a symptom of a society that is failing to meet the basic needs of an individual. If you cannot afford a roof over your head, if you cannot afford 3 meals a day, if you have no community around you, if you have trauma that has not gone addressed or healed because there's no one there to help you move through that, and you're on the street for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, what do you think's gonna happen? You're not gonna be able to pull yourself up by your bootstraps if that's your condition. And so we need to recognize that when we talk about mental health, it is not an individual issue. This is why we talk about housing is a right, healthcare is a right, education is a right, good jobs is a right, an environment that is not polluted so you can actually go out and enjoy some green space with your family. That's a right. Not having to watch genocide on your phone should be a right. You're not crazy for feeling depressed about that. That is an appropriate response to your conditions. Sorry, I keep getting applause, but I want to just point to the great Gabor Mate. Can we all give a, y'all know Gabor Mate? Okay. He talks about how the Lakota Sioux have a tradition where if somebody is ill in the community, they don't isolate them, send them off to a tent somewhere. They say, what did we do to contribute to this illness, and what can we do to help you feel better and heal? And that's how we need to approach mental health in this society. So that's what I did that.
Basically, you said what I was going to say. But I would just add on to that is that really driving it home for American folks, for everybody, that mental health issues and things like that is not an indicator of any failure of yours. It is an indicator of a failure of our society. And especially now, and if you're not paying attention, this playbook has been gone through I don't know how many times. You know, when they go after the trans people, they go after folks and wanting to put them in asylums and doing those things. You've heard Trump talk about wanting to bring back institutionalization and putting folks in asylum. So again, I want to repeat that responsibility is what?
The ability to respond.
One more time. Responsibility is what? It's the ability to respond. And what I want you to know is that cops aren't always the right people to respond to a situation. So when we are having folks who are having a crisis, a mental health crisis, we need to call on people who can actually respond to the need. Secondly, I want to say there's a documentary out there, if you haven't seen it, that's going to be coming out called Life After. And it is talking about, there's things that is happening, we discuss here in the States, but also in Canada, about MAID, medical assistance in dying. And to understand the nuanced conversation around that, because you come to find out and realize through this documentary that a lot of these folks who want the choice to be able to die, you realize actually they don't want to die. They just don't want to live in the limiting circumstances that they're in. They don't want to be sentenced to incarceration by institutionalization. For them, going into a hospital mirrors incarceration. And it also means you're going to go into debt for it too. So what we need to realize is to face and to fight mental health is to see it as a failing of society, and to address those failings in society, and to give people more autonomy in the decisions with their medical health, because the biggest gang I know of is the pharmaceutical industry.
Dope dealers.
The dope dealers. They listen, especially the biggest dope dealers, the alcohol people. They hate that people smoking weed now because alcohol sales is down. Do you understand what I'm saying? But when they give you autonomy in deciding what is right for your health care, then we have less folks, we have less of a system that feels like they are the authority in telling you what is right and what is wrong for you.
Thank you. Well, I believe that closes out the Q&A portion of our panel. Thank you so much to our distinguished guests.
That's my best friend from childhood, Sean Young, asking this question. Sorry, I'm gonna take, candidate's prerogative away from the chair. This is the son of the first ever Green Party elected official in the state of Minnesota, Annie Young, God rest her soul, an indigenous woman who stood on business and served from 1989 to 2018, and I will deflect the question for you. I'm gonna hit that in my speech in a few minutes, so, yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone.